Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I thought we would do some second impressions. And by second impressions, what I mean is stuff that I have reviewed on my channel and I haven't really spoken about it since, or stuff that I did featured in a haul or featured in a first impressions review video. And I'm now here to tell you whether I'm still using it, whether anything has changed, whether I'm still liking it, or if I disliked it, whether I'm liking it better. It's a little update for you on where I'm at with all these products that I have tried on my channel over the past month or so. So first up is the Hourglass foundation. I still have it in its box because it is going on eBay because I can't get on with it. I went and got a better shade from Space NK for myself. This is the shade Sand that I picked up based on online descriptions, and using foundation it told me my shade would be Sand, which I believe is a good shade for me in the stick, but the stick and the liquid do not correlate in my opinion, and that's also what I was told when I went to Space NK, as they are not the same. And in fact we did do some comparative swatches between the stick and the liquid in the store, and they definitely, in my opinion, they do not match the liquid and the stick. So that's fine as long as they let you know that, which I haven't seen them do so. So that's frustrating. And this was incredibly warm, very, very, very yellow and unwearable on me. So I didn't even feel like I could review it. And now that ship has sailed, I feel. So I went in and I got a better shade, but still not a great shade. The shade I got a sample of is the shade Warm Ivory, which was wearable, but still not a good match for me. Still very yellow, yeah, and just slightly off. I just can't find undertones in that foundation to work for me and look, you know, somewhat close to my natural undertones. But I just don't like it. It's okay, and using it how they say you should, which is, you know, 1/2 of a pump to do your whole face. So I used a tiny amount and I dot it just as they do in their demonstration and how they use it in their video that everyone talks about with Rosie Huntington Whiteley did a demo with an Hourglass artist and showed you exactly how they intended to be used, and I have tried it exactly in that way. And it goes better when you do it that way, of course. If you whack 3 pumps on your face, it is going to look incredibly heavy and cakey. But even using it in the way that they tell you to use it, you know, with a very small amount, dotted in, you know, working in sections, it still just doesn't look that great to me. It's still heavier than I'd like. It's still not friendly to lines. It's not my favorite finish wise. I have lots of foundations that I prefer to it, and it is a good £10 more than any other foundation I have in my collection. So I have now given it a good 3 or 4 tries, but again, at that price point, it would definitely need to be better than anything I've got for me to recommend it, for me to keep it even. And it's definitely not better. It's not even in my top few foundations as far as my preferences. So yeah, that's my final thoughts. Next up, another very pricey foundation. This is the Guerlain L'essential foundation. This is the Natural Glow foundation from Guerlain. Again, brand new. It's the one with the absolutely stunning bottle that we've all seen all over social media. This guy, this one. Now, I did review this. I will link it down below. It's quite nice. When it first goes on, it looks really, really nice. I had lots of comments on that video saying, oh, I think it looks stunning, I think it looks beautiful, and I'm not sure if those people watched until the end, because I would strongly question anybody who watched to the end and watched how it looked after wearing and would say that that looked beautiful, because it didn't. But yeah, it does go on and look very, very beautiful. It looks similar to the foundation I'm wearing today, which is the Dior Glow foundation. It looks similar to that on first application. You know, a light to medium finish, very natural, very skin-like. It looked lovely when I first applied it, I do agree, but over wear time, oh, it just did nothing for like my texture and my lines. It didn't wear particularly well despite its 16-hour claim, and I have given it a couple more goes since the review and it hasn't. You know, I've tried other primers and things like that, which I don't really feel like I should have to, especially as I used it with its own brand primer in the review. But yeah, it hasn't, nothing has changed. My thoughts haven't changed. It's still just okay for me. I still have better foundations that I like better. So yeah, that one is not a keeper for me, sadly. One foundation that I have really enjoyed recently is the Too Faced Born This Way. Now, a few of you wanted me to review this one, but because it is so old, is that the word? It's obviously not a new release. It's not worth me reviewing on my channel. It just won't get the reviews to make the time a priority for me with this one. I included it in the vote for another video and it finished, I think, second or third. So yeah, obviously not enough people were interested in me reviewing this one for me to fit it into my schedule, because it is, you know, it's tight. But I did want to mention it here because I know people are interested in how I find this, how I get on with this, what I think about it. And I do like it. It is not in my like top 3 or 4 foundations. And the main reason for that is that the foundations I like better than this, so my Laura Mercier, my Dior Backstage foundation, and my Charlotte Tilbury, and potentially my Tainted Doll. So I would put all of those above this one. This would probably be 5th or 6th in my ranking list. And by the way, please don't ask me to rank those others because it can't be done. It's like choosing between my children. But yeah, this one would be 5th or 6th in my list. And the reason why it's not as high up as those others I've just mentioned is the way it sits in my lines. So it's not bad. It doesn't really soak into every line, but it doesn't sit as well in my lines, my fine lines on my forehead, around my mouth, on my chin, as those others. But I do really like this one, and it definitely has a place in my collection, and that is because I find it wears very, very well. I like the finish of it, and it is like bulletproof to transfer, I've found. I've not really read or heard that about this foundation. In fact, I feel like lots of people will say that it doesn't wear well, but I actually have not been very well over the last few weeks, and I went to bed with this on, and I have white pillows, right? White pillows, imagine the fear. I went to bed and I was like so tired, I didn't even care. By the way, I wasn't going to bed for the night. I went for a nap before anyone panics that I don't take my makeup off before I go to bed. Calm down, I was just going for a nap. So I lied down on my bed. I think I had like a migraine or something, and I was asleep for like an hour, face on a white pillow, and I woke up and was like thinking, well, this is gonna have to go straight in the wash, and there was nothing, and that is a miracle. So for that reason, for the reason it wears really nicely, it's definitely got a place in my collection, because I feel like for days when I'm out with my kids, when we're playing, we're going to a soft place where my kids are going to just rub their faces all over my face, and I don't want them to have more foundation on than I do by the end of the day. Previously, in those kinds of situations, I would have gone for like my Double Wear or my Huda or maybe my Fenty foundations that I don't love, but they do that thing very well. And now I have this one, which I do prefer over those ones for that niche purpose. And next up, the Laura Mercier that I have not stopped banging on about. Now, the only reason I'm updating you on this one, I know that I have more than updated you on it. I haven't stopped talking about it since I found it. So I know you get it, I love it. It's one of my all-time favorites. But for like the 3rd time, I have changed my shade. So I'm updating you for that reason. I've really struggled with this foundation shade-wise. I've never used Laura Mercier foundation before. And as we know, my undertones are a real struggle. They are a little olive, a little warm, a little neutral. And it's hard for me to find foundations that are workable because of those complications. But I have now found one that I love and I feel is very, very good for me, and this is the shade Tawny. So initially when I reviewed this, I picked up the shade Macadamia, which was good undertone wise, but was much too light for me. I then picked up the shade Golden, which was a better shade for me, but I still just felt like it was a little off, a little too warm maybe. Yeah, so I was still kind of feeling like there might be a better shade out there for me. So I went back to the shop, I got some more samples. I picked up the shade Buff and I picked up the shade Bisque. Both were again okay, but not enough for me to feel like I was gonna replace one of the shades I already had for a 3rd one of those two. Finally, I found the shade Tawny. Now this wasn't in stock. They didn't have a sample of this when I first went into Space NK, which is why I picked up the shade Golden, because this one wasn't there, I didn't know about it. And this is definitely the closest shade for me that they have in this foundation. It's finally a hit. It is maybe half a shade too dark for me, but the undertone is perfect, and for me that's my priority. So I would rather something had the right undertone and was maybe a hair light or a hair dark than it be the undertone be off but it match my sort of level of pigment. You know what I'm saying, you know what I'm saying. That's my priority, because I feel like, you know, if your foundation's a little dark, once you've done concealer and you've balanced everything out with bronzer, it all looks fine and it works perfectly. But if you are using the wrong undertone, I feel like you just look bonkers, and it's not even gonna look close anyway because it's just off. It's gonna look off. So yeah, this is my shade from now on, Tawny. I can use just the one, don't have to mix it, it's close enough, and I think it will also work coming into spring as well, because it is that hair darker than me currently. Next up, the Maybelline Snapscara. So I did a review on this and I didn't really love it. Well, I didn't love it. I liked it, it was fine, but it just wasn't dramatic enough for my personal taste. You know how I like my lashes, fake, huge, fat lashes, big lashes. And this to me is not that. It doesn't give me that. It doesn't give me enough drama. So I said that I would get back to you once I'd used it a few more times and it got a bit older, because some mascaras, particularly drugstore, I find age well, like they improve once they've been opened, you know, a week or so. And it's just not the case for this one. It hasn't, you know, dried out completely in a week or so, but it hasn't, you know, suddenly transformed into one that I love. I just still feel okay about it. Next up, this is the MAC Spring Bling highlight powder from their Cherry Blossom / Boom Boom Bloom collection. Now I say highlight powder because this is not a highlight powder, this is a bronzer with a highlight overspray. Now I've used this 2 or 3 times now, and you will see that it has no shimmer or glow left to it. It is now very much a matte bronzer, and I've been really enjoying it. When I first reviewed this collection, it went on extremely patchy because it still had bits of the like overspray in it, so I had a little bit of an issue with my initial application, but now that the overspray is fully gone, it works really nicely. It's the perfect balance of warm and cool tones. It's a really lovely luminous finish, and I've been using it quite a lot. I do hate the fact that there's an overspray to it because I think it's misleading and it's unfair, especially to call it a highlight powder when it's only going to be a highlight powder for about 1 use, and then it's going to be a bronzer. I don't understand it. I don't get it. But yeah, as a bronzer, I like this. The packaging is everything. But yeah, the overspray I could definitely do without. Next up, the Natasha Denona Contour Sculpting Powder in the shade 2. I adore this stuff. I have been only cream contouring for months and months because I just couldn't really get on with powder. So I thought I'd give this one a try because I do feel like Natasha Denona's like powder formulas are rarely a disappointment. So yeah, I wanted to try it, wanted to give it another go because it is much quicker to powder contour. And this is just the perfect cool but not grey undertones, and it just blends really beautifully with bronzer and really gives a nice snatched look to your face without it taking ages to blend in and without it looking like, ugh, she's really contoured. So yeah, I really highly recommend these, and they now come in 5 shades, which is awesome. Contour powder in 5 shades. I like that. Next up, this is the Hourglass Ambient Lighting Powder in the shade Dim Light, and I got this in the travel size as part of my birthday haul. And let me tell you, I'm confused. I know lots of people love this, and I don't hate it, but I don't understand it. It's causing me some issues. So ultimately, the issue I have with this is it changes the shade of my foundation. I haven't really seen people saying this. I don't know if I'll be able to show you. I've got my Dose of Colours tapered blush brush, which is what I use because it's nice and small in here. And I just feel like when I apply this my foundation will be like looking really good and like match me really nicely, and I'll put this on and it's like it makes it go a bit of an odd undertone on me. I just don't think this is gonna show on camera. It's because it's too subtle. I like the finish of it and everything. It is really nice and luminous, but yeah, it's adding a cast to my skin, which I don't think works with my undertones, if that makes sense. It's almost turning me a bit pinky or something. I mean, when I swatch it, it looks like fairly colourless, but yeah, when I add this over the top of my foundations, when I'm happy that I'm matching and everything's looking good, it's turning my foundation an off undertone. So I'm still playing about with it, but that's my current feeling, is I feel like there might have been a different shade I should have used for my undertones, because you can see I'm very, I don't know again if you can see on camera, but I'm very olivey when I'm fair, and this is making me a bit pinky. Yeah. Next up, the Becca Opal highlight. I have been using this like non-stop on days when I want a bit more bling. So I don't use this when I'm like on the school run because it's a bit much. I don't want to scare the teachers or the children. So yeah, I use this like on the weekends. In the week, I'll use my Natasha Denona Super Glow because that's really nice and natural. And then on the weekends, or when I'm looking for a bit more bling, this is like my favorite highlight at the moment. I love it. Very, very wet, shiny, very close to my skin tone, so it's you know, just melts into the skin and looks like beaming light from my face. And yeah, I am loving this. I would if this ran out tomorrow, I would definitely pick up the larger size, 100. There are two things left that I want to update you on, which I don't have because I sold them, which tells you everything you need to know, and that is the Fenty concealer and powder. I wasn't going to even try the powder again in the banana shade because it just made me a banana. It was much too yellow and too dark for my skin, and I didn't like it enough when I tried it to purchase it in another shade. As far as the concealer, again, it was okay to me, but it didn't have enough coverage for me. Like, I prefer my Huda concealer, I prefer the Too Faced concealer. Those are full coverage, they cover my full under eye situation, and I didn't find that the Fenty was full coverage. I think it's more of a medium. My under eye darkness was still showing through. So yeah, I don't recommend either of those products. I wasn't particularly obsessed with them, and I have since got rid of them from my collection. So that is everything I think that I have to update you on. Everything that I have kind of mentioned briefly and maybe left you hanging a little bit. Hopefully now you have the full picture, and I hope that was really, really helpful for you. I'd love to see you in a future video. Otherwise, take care for now. Bye, 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 bye.